So welcome everybody to Power Lunch. Today, our guest speaker is Cathy Paper. Cathy Paper is one of the leading networking coaches for individuals and teams, including working with high performers at Polaris, Best Buy Company, and Redpath. Cathy believes strongly in the power of building a powerful network to win more in business and life, and shares the proven process of the Impact 100. Cathy's goal for you today is to identify the people you want to reconnect with or connect with to reach your goals. While Cathy is speaking today, I'd like to ask everybody to keep your mics muted until there's a time that we can ask questions. And if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat. And with that out of the way, I'll let Cathy go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Of course, we're transitioning into virtual and being able to be together in person. But oops, hey, what happened? I pushed the wrong button. There we go. I wanted to see if I could chat, because I really would appreciate, just put something in the chat of why are you here to network? What are you hoping to learn? And I wanted to be able to see where my little screen is so that I can see the chat. But Will, you'll help me track all that. Okay, so networking. We don't just come out of the blocks like Prince. We are rock stars in our own way. We have the ability to network and make connections with a little bit more emphasis on what are some of our personalities and superpowers. So Sarah Blakely is on the left side there. She's the founder of Spanx. She spent 20 plus years working on her business. I follow her on Instagram and find her really informative, to just being real, sharing what she's into, sharing her children, talking about business. You know, people really look up to her and admire her. She's here winning a Time 100 award, but she's very real and plays to her style, which is why I show you this little picture of me. That's me at age 5 up north at the cabin. It's a little pink inner tube, and off the screen you can't see my little sneakers that I would wear. I'd always wear little red sneakers because I didn't like to touch the bottom, and still don't like to touch the bottom of the lake. And by talking about this, I really want to invite each of you to figure out, how do you find your own inner rock star, your inner superpower? Prince, when he started, we wouldn't know him as well if he had stuck with Roger Nelson, the kid from St. Paul Central, if he hadn't really emphasized some of the things that he was into and that he was passionate about, and his ability to perform, to create music, to do things. Same Sarah Blakely, she started her business off in a side room of her apartment. A friend challenged her to do it. And now it's one of the leading brands, and she's one of the highest profile entrepreneurs. So you can set your sights really high, or you can say, you know what, I just want to find the rock star that I am. So I'm going to tell you a few things today and leave you with a couple of tools or ways to perform at your best. And I love the Strength Finder. So if anyone's done the Strength Finder, it's a great way to start talking about yourself and doing that assessment. That's why I show the speed, a little speed tracker thing there, because I'm the kind of person that when I see that speeding, I speed up just a little bit. But it makes you pay attention, and doing an assessment of yourself is the first part of networking, to know what are those assets that you bring? What are the things that come so naturally to you? That's what your strength is. It comes so naturally to you that you don't even notice that you're doing it. But the more you're aware of it, the more you can talk about it. You can really own it. So for me, it's things like, I'm very competitive. I'm a real developer. I see each person as unique. I'm very empathetic. And being able to articulate that language gives you more confidence and the ability to show up and really make connections with people using your own way. So you can do that tool online. It's $25, or buy the book and it has a little code in it, but it's a powerful way. So pause for just a minute and consider this reflection here of the shoreline. And when you throw a rock into the water, it makes a splash. When you throw a pebble into the water, it makes a splash, maybe a different kind of splash. But understanding, how is it that you show up? Are you a pebble or are you a rock? And there's no right or wrong answer to this question. It's about knowing yourself. So if you're a pebble and you show up and you start making connections, maybe for you, walking into a bigger room or a large group or turning your camera on, that's not your style, which is fine. But it's knowing what you are so that you can tailor your networking with that. So pause. If you've got a sheet of paper there, if you want to write it in the chat, what you are, a pebble or a rock. I know we want to keep this a little bit interactive. If we were together, I would have some people say it out loud, and the pebble people would go, I don't want to say it out loud, and the rock people would have already yelled out rock. So we just want to get a baseline so that you're aware of, how is it when I show up? I want to know myself when I'm there. So across the street from OffiCenters, St. Louis Park, is the Metropolitan. And this is their parking lot, where in the course of running my business for 15 years, I've been to a lot of events at the Metropolitan. But I want to take you back to a winter day. There's no snow here now in this photo, but take you back to a winter day in 2009. It was early on in my business, and I was starting to network and to build relationships and to go out to get more sales, to build more connections, to go there. And I sat in the parking lot and I thought to myself, you know what? I don't really want to go in. It's 5 o'clock. I don't want to see the same people I've seen before. Not sure I'm going to be able to, muster up my confidence and my courage to talk about what I need to talk about with people. And I was really nervous about it. I sat in the car for a while longer, and then I said, Cathy, I've been to a networking class, and I knew that you want to go in early. You want to have a lay of the land, know who the people are. And I sat in there and I just thought, I can't do this. And I did. I went in and I did what I was supposed to do. I passed out a few business cards. I made a couple of connections. I stood probably close to the bar, not a big drinker, but I stood close to the bar. And I made those connections. And then I got out, and the next day somebody called me and they said, Cathy, I was at this event and I didn't see you there. You're everywhere. And the way she said you're everywhere was not a compliment. And why I bring you back to this Metropolitan Ballroom area and that event is I was networking without a plan. I was trying to meet people. I was trying to make connections, but I didn't have a plan, and I didn't have any confidence in the messaging that I was doing, and I was not very strategic. So fast forward 15 years later, and I have made all the bloopers there are for networking. I've called people by the wrong name. I've showed up at the wrong time. I've made all of those mistakes that we all have about networking and what it is that we're going to do. So I'm going to touch on today a few of those myths and share with you some of the learnings and things that I've learned, because this process works. It gives you confidence and poise. It helps you structure. It helps you grow your businesses and really develop things. So anybody, if you want, you can put in the chat, you just can't remember somebody's name. You've met them a million times, or you don't know what they're doing. So let's see what we got here. A little bit want to work on networking skills other than just handing out business cards. Yep, usually the rock in the crowd. All right, Kelly, good. We, like I said, no right or wrong answer, but just want to know there. So thinking about these bloopers. Again, we all have them, and it's the more that you just sort of laugh at this is what happened. So here's one of my favorite networking bloopers lately is this lawyer that got on there and had put on the filter. And it ended up being comical and sort of funny for him, and a way to differentiate himself as well as to be lighthearted on it. And with networking, we're not all perfect networkers. That's not the goal. The goal is to be real and to take some of those bloopers in strides. And so again, I encourage you, when we're doing a lot of Zoom, when you're doing things, the more you can either turn on your camera or put your name down there so that people get to know you, because you can make connections. So here, if we got a small group, you could reach out and look to people on LinkedIn or find somebody, because connections are found from a friend of a friend. So I show this again because this is the National Speakers Association, a weekend workshop, and speakers all love to talk and to put themselves out there, or at least that's part of their craft. So you can see all the cameras are on. Everybody's, connecting. The chat would always explode with people's conversation. But I'd love to just say, right now is think about when you show up at an online meeting. somewhere, is there a way that you can show up and just be a little bit more present for the group? So maybe you're not wanting to turn your camera on because you're not, today you're not feeling it, but maybe make sure you have your name in there, or that you decide today's the day I'm going to make a comment in the chat. I'm going to use that chat feature. Or the other one I like, and I encourage people to do, especially when we're doing this, is there's the button that has the reaction button, and they've added a few things, but you use the reaction button. So again, as the speaker, it's hard not to be able to see people. And I don't know why I can't get it. So a couple of you, if you would, use the reaction button. Just tell me you're here. Give me a little like, hello. Use the little high five thing, or yay, I've got somebody adjusting their camera. And it just makes it more dynamic, because networking is all about those connections and what can you do with that. My rugby ball, I'm looking around, my rugby ball is upstairs. I always use the rugby ball in here because part of networking, and once you know yourself, now it's about let's connect with other people. And the rugby ball, I played rugby in college, and it was a ways ago, and I used to not tell people that I played rugby because I didn't think it was very ladylike to be playing rugby and talking in a business setting about such rugby sport. And what I've learned is the more you can share something about yourself that lets other people start to make a connection with you, the more powerful it is. So I talk about rugby actually because rugby teaches a lot of things about team. So this is a team from New Zealand called the All Blacks. They are one of the best rugby clubs in the world. And if you notice looking at all of them, they're all solid, really strong, similar. But the guy that is about to go down with the rugby ball, right there being tackled, the people that are on the right and the left of him, and probably even the guys that are running behind, they're all talking to him and saying, with you. Because as that person is going down, his job is to make sure that the ball goes to the person on his team. So they're talking to him. They're helping him, avoid giving the ball back to the other team. And in networking, you want people that are on your team that will say with you. People that know what it is, what your goals are that you want to accomplish, so that they can help you along with it. So starting to think, how can I build my team? Who are those people that can talk with me so that when I go to that networking event, I'm now going with somebody that when I see them, they can help me make an introduction. Because, again, one of those bloopers is you get somewhere, you practice your elevator speech many, many times, and they say, okay, let's go around the room and say your elevator speech. And all of a sudden you forget how the words go together. You've forgotten how you're going to want to say those things. And what you want is, again, smaller group. Maybe it's somebody that you say, okay, well, I do executive coaching and training, but they're the ones who pipe in and say, oh yeah, and Cathy has worked with this person and she does a phenomenal job with that. It's somebody else is helping tell your story. So that in essence is the with you and developing that team. So thinking about your team, I have this concept called the Impact 100. Again, if you have any questions as we're going along, fire them up in the chat. But back to that Metropolitan Ballroom, I knew I needed a little bit more confidence as well as focus of where am I networking? What am I doing? Who am I connecting with? So I came up with this concept. We came up with this concept called the Impact 100. Because early on in your networking or in growing your business or sales, depending on what you're on, or job search, you start to think, I have to meet hundreds of people. And you set this huge goal for yourself of, I've got to meet everybody, and you're flying around and there's no real purpose to it. So the Impact 100 is meant to start thinking about who's in your network right now. And you can start building this list right now based on looking at your inbox of who are you interacting with. You could look at your phone, who have you spoken to in the last 2 weeks. You could look at your text messages. You can look at your client list. Those are people that are on your Impact 100. And in the groups that I run, when we start doing this exercise, a lot of people will say, well, Cathy, I only have 32 people. I'm like, you know what? That's okay. 32 people is a great number of people to start with, because those are the people that are helping you or have helped you get to where you are right now. And it just gives you some data and information about what it is that you want as you continue to grow. So starting to do that exercise, it could take you half an hour of just, again, looking at your phone, looking at your Impact 100, your inbox, looking at your LinkedIn to see where you have people. Because this formula, using the Impact 100, is around setting up how can I be strategic of this. So if you look on the right side of the screen where it says results, why are we networking? Why are you making some connections? Why do you want to meet people? Why do you want to stay connected to the people? Why are you responding to emails? Again, I ask these questions because what it does is it helps really drive that focus and efficiency. So that maybe your goal is, I want to grow my business 10%. I want to increase my sales 25%. I want to find a new job inside the organization that I'm working on. I want to find a job. Maybe my result is, I want the best people in my network, because lately my network, I feel like I'm the only one that gives people connections and they don't give any connections back to me. So you want to start with what that result is. And the more concrete you can be, the better. But even if you just start with saying, I want to increase sales, great. Let's start with that. Because then we can look at the process. What is that process? So the process being, my strategy is I'm going to start doing some networking. I want to make some more connections with people that are in the accounting profession, because I want to sell my computer services to those people that are in the accounting profession. So that you can start thinking, what is that process? And then we can drill into that people. Who are the right people in there? So I started with the Impact 100, but I break it down to who's your top 25? Who are those really core people that you can do things? And Will, I've been a member of OffiCenter for the last 10 years, and I consider you and all the OffiCenter staff, a part of my top 25 of people that when they say, will you do this? I say, of course. And will I reinforce tweets? Will I reinforce on LinkedIn? Will I make comments? Will I do certain things? Will I tell my friends to go there? Of course, because those are the people that are in my top 25. And again, I'm going to go through some of those bars at the bottom, but how you really develop and achieve the most success with this formula is leveraging some of those communication skills. And I'm going to share with you some tips on what does that communication look like. And then I talk about emotional connection, because again, what's the difference between me and the 10,000 other coaches that are out there? It's about that emotional connection, or really caring about somebody, because we do business with people that we know, like, and trust. And again, to talk up OffiCenters, for those of you that are new members who are thinking about it, but there are a lot of other co-working spaces that you can go to, but there are not places that you can go to where the staff knows your name, will help you with the supportive things, will really care for you, will make connections for you between other people, will really take that ball, that commitment to being your partner to the extra mile. And I think that's where, in terms of emotional connection, it comes out. And then what are those daily habits or daily things you can do to stay connected with your network? And I'll give you at the end a lot of specifics on there. So think about what your goal is today and what's the results you want from your network. What is it that you again hope to accomplish with that? Okay, pause, because we've got this Impact 100 list we're trying to make, and you're wondering, okay, how do I come up with this? I'm supposed to look at my LinkedIn, look at my areas, areas where maybe you're already communicating with people or interacting with them. And I break people out into types, because it reminds me to make sure that I'm not just focusing on people that are, quote, my clients or my prospects, but I'm really having a network that is diverse, that has what I call these centers of influence. Those are your referral partners. Those are the people that are really on your team that are, quote, with you. Those are the ones that, as a small business owner, without your centers of influence, you wouldn't get as much done. You wouldn't make as quick connections. You wouldn't have those people that call you and say, hey, are you going to this event? Or make those connections. So starting to think, where do I find those centers of influence? Where do I find those referral partners? And asking yourself, are you a good referral partner for people? Clients, of course, those are easy to find because you find them in your QuickBooks or you have them on your sales sheet. And then, of course, a prospect list can have some variety of, are you looking for new people? So I know as I expand into doing more work in the healthcare industry, I have a prospect list so that I know who are some of the healthcare lawyers in town, or who are the healthcare thought leaders online. Who are they? Again, government and law enforcement, having variety in your network means that you become a go-to person. And I started realizing years ago I was a good networker when people needed babysitters. So my kids were little, and I would always see people and they'd be like, oh, I can't go out. I don't have a babysitter, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, well, I have some babysitters. And here's what I did is I tapped into all the local colleges, and then that's how I found my babysitters. And then as the babysitters would graduate, I would find their friends and find their friends. And that's how I got through those years of, being desperate to get out of the house. So thinking, how can I find more people? And of course, having advisors and mentors, those are great people in your network. And there's a lot of reciprocity. So if you think, well, I don't have that much to offer people, you know what? You're wrong. You do have something to offer people. So find an advisor or a mentor where you can get something from them, as well as maybe there's somebody that you can mentor. And those personal relationships are really helpful too, to flesh out that Impact 100 list. I realized 3 or 4 years ago that my network was not very diverse. And while I had a lot of people by profession, I did not have as many people by race. I probably didn't have as many people by age differences as I would have liked. I wanted to make sure that I started to have more diversity in my network, both for the greater good of the community, but also for my own development and innovation and ability to perform. So making an intent to be more diverse with your network, because we all win if everybody is building a diverse network. And what I found is the Twin Cities, we do a phenomenal job of recruiting people to the Twin Cities, but we don't always have people build connections and relationships. So often I find I get asked, they're like, you're not from Minnesota, because I reach out and I introduce myself to new people. And so I just encourage all of you, as you're networking, be the person that when you're at an event and you see someone standing by themselves, invite them into your circle. Be the one to be that connector. And again, you will see your relationships grow. Because we all have the same amount of time. You don't have a lot of time to devote to networking, or you want your networking to be productive so that you're clear of why am I connecting with people? Why am I going into this particular room? Or why do I want to be a part of this association? So I really want people to be thinking about, how do you use your time? So as I said, you can start building that Impact 100 by looking in your inbox and seeing who's in there. You could be the person that when you're working on something, and when those emails start to stack and there are like 5 of them going back and forth, that you're the one who picks up the phone and says, can you and I just talk to each other and figure this out and work on that? Let people get to know you. So I love a combination of making those connections. So I want to just pause for a minute here to see if anyone has any questions about the Impact 100. I'm going to go into some more detail on it, or if you have any questions about those different types of people that you want in your network.
So I had a question. So finding your Impact 100 is basically just like going through the process of finding who you think that the connections that you make on a consistent basis are the strongest and would be the strongest networking choices for you.
Yes. So I think, so if your goal with networking is to just have a strong, consistent network, if maybe you don't have a sales goal, but you just want to keep your professional network, then yes, I look at it at the list of people in my network to be like, am I missing some people? Sure. Just the exercise of writing down or making an Excel spreadsheet of who's in your network and maybe what industry they're from or what their title is, you will see some things that you'll realize, oh, you know what? I don't I don't think I really know anybody out of the Edina office very well. Or I don't communicate with them very often. Or again, that's sort of a negative, but you'll notice, oh, you know what? I got great relationships with all the people in Woodbury in that area. So just starting to look at it, you'll notice some things.
Sure.
Anybody else? I see we have Alex as a rugby player. Awesome. And yes, there is a recording later. So let's do this is, again, jot down one or two people maybe that you're put on your list, but you're like, you know what, I have not talked to them lately. So maybe somebody just sparked into your mind and you're like, you know what, I'd want to connect with them a little bit more regularly. Because once you've made this Impact 100 list, now we're going to look at it and we're going to put them in categories. And you're not telling anyone, okay, you're a platinum. You're not going up to somebody and saying you're a gold, but what you're doing is being really clear of what does it take for somebody to be a platinum, gold, or a silver. So for example, platinum, that's 10 to 20% of my network. So a platinum person is the person that, you know what, I will do anything for them. They will do anything for me. We have a really strong relationship. Maybe it's a lot of referrals back and forth or really a quality relationship. So if it's 100 people, maybe that's 5 or 10 people. So it's not a huge group. Gold is the bulk of your relationships. And those are people that maybe you're connecting with them once a month, every quarter. You just know you have a solid relationship, but you're not maybe doing day-to-day business with them. But they're in your network. They're strong. That's the bulk of your network. Those are the people that are maybe they're in your industry or they're your centers of influence. Those are people that you want to keep in touch with. Silver, which is, again, a smaller subset of things, those could be new people that you're trying to get to know to say, are you going to become a gold or a platinum in my network? Are we going to develop a relationship that is mutually beneficial? Silver could be somebody where you're like, you know what, you're not sure. You're not sure if this is the right relationship, if this is the person to be connected with. Because again, I see a lot of people that are very good networkers. They come to me and they're exhausted. And they say, I've networked like crazy. I've given away a lot of business. I've made a lot of connections. And I don't see anything back. And that's because that person in their silver, that's the relationship, maybe you've never asked for the business. Or maybe you've never really said to the person, do you know what it is that I do? Could we be helpful to one another? So silver is a place to me where you're trying to decide what does that relationship look like. Now, if I put these 100 people on my Impact 100, or maybe I'm going to put somebody on their new, I said I want to find out about accountants. I can find out information so quickly using social media these days to know where I might have some commonalities with someone. So for example, I'm going to tell you one of my networking bloopers. Early on in my business, I went and met with the head of TPT. And I had done my homework on LinkedIn, and I knew that this gentleman had gone to Brown University. And I was all excited about myself to be able to make a reference to where he had gone to college. And I got into the meeting and I was nervous. And 3, possibly 4 times I made reference to, well, when you went to Brown or when you went to Brown. So much so that he finally said to me very politely, but he just said, you know, yeah, I went to Brown, but that was a really long time ago. And so I realized I was using what I knew about him sort of over the top because I was really nervous. Because I was nervous about how was the meeting going to go, what was I going to do, all of that. But by doing research, you can tell a little bit like, is this person a dog lover? Are they into food? Do they like movies? Do they like sports? So that you at least have a language that can give you a little bit of comfort and help you make that connection. So that's why I do my research, and it doesn't take a very long time to do that. So again, Lori's here. I put this picture up here because I can look at LinkedIn and tell whether somebody cares about LinkedIn or not, whether they're going to respond if I put a message out to them in LinkedIn. And the way I can tell with Lori is, one, she's got a photo up there at the top, you know, like that pretty photo of the OffiCenters space. She's got a headshot that she likes. She's taken the time to put which groups that we're in. She's got 500 plus connections with, again, I don't care how many connections you have. What I want to know is, do we have any mutual connections? So if I weren't connected to Lori and I were going to approach her, I would look and go, okay, Kevin Donlin and Jill Conrath are mutual connections. I'm going to reach out to one of them to say, how do I get to know Lori better? How do I make those connections with her? So looking at LinkedIn, I can tell a lot about people. And again, here's a place where if your profile isn't something that you're really excited about, spend an hour, work on it, hire someone to help you with it, because it's a great place to build up your credibility and your confidence as well. Another way to reach to your Impact 100, again, is that phone. So when the pandemic first started, I picked up the phone a lot, and I didn't have everybody's cell phone number, but I knew how I could find them. I knew if I called their office, they would check, I could give them my cell phone, and then we could talk to one another. So I used the phone as a way to just get one step closer to people as well. The same as people can hear in my voice, you know what? I'm excited, I'm passionate. I can tell whether they don't have 5 minutes to talk to me. I can do a lot more when I'm on the phone. So I use the phone a lot. And I show this as a rotary one just because there's a super funny Ellen video where the young woman doesn't know how to use the phone. And so if you need a laugh, Google that. I'm going to just take a sip of my water here. All right. So these are a couple ways of how you can connect with people that are in your 100. But what I really do, I want you to feel efficient and confident in your networking. So this framework just allows you to get a sense of, what is your goal? Why are you doing this networking? Why do you want to have a network? Because when you know why you want to have a network, then you can know, am I building relationships in the right places? The 3 to 5 keywords, that's, that harkens back to the Prince and Sarah Blakely photo of know yourself pretty well, know what you're about. And there are a few tools here that you could take to just get some language so that you're more confident in talking about what's your secret sauce, what makes you really good. So I know I'm a really good coach. I'm fun. I'm a little bit non-traditional. I help people, move creatively through accomplishing what it is that they want. Now we get at again, you've listed your people, so that top 25 in your Impact 100. Now we got to get into the actions. What is it that you're actually going to do? And again, nobody has 40 hours a week to be networking. So you want to think, how can I be efficient? What can be my plan for networking? So I call this making that plan of action. Because when you take action with your network, things start to change. You start to build those connections and deepening of the relationships so that both of you can accomplish things. So here are a couple of ideas that you can just take a look at and think about, and maybe you'll get 1 or 2 thought starters of what you want to do, kind of connecting on and off the screen, because these bloopers are going to happen, but the more you have a plan and a process, the less likely you're going to have that sort of blooper feeling of, oh no, what did I just do? I said the wrong thing. Because you've prepared, you know why you're meeting with somebody, you know why you're going to an event. So further down the list, I say read more publications and articles. I read a lot of publications. I know what's going on in people's industries. I know who some of the players are, so that when I walk into an event, which I did last night with a professional services firm, recruiting firm was hosting it, I knew who some of their competitors were. So that when I'm engaging in a conversation with the CEO, he knows instantly that I know a little bit more about his business, so that I become a little bit more credible in that. So what you're doing is you're trying to say, how can I be set up for this success? So the bottom one too is, here's where I tell you all, because I'm sure you don't all know each other. The OffiCenters is a big place and offers a lot of really great people to meet with, is follow up after the Zoom. Reach out to somebody on LinkedIn. Everybody, oops, what did I do here? everybody has, their name or their phone number or something on there. Reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I enjoyed this call. Cathy gave us the assignment to link in. Love to link in. You're at OffiCenters. Want to spend 10 minutes and find out what one another does? Because that's how you make more connections, is through the friend of a friend or business contact. More action ideas. Again, there's so many different things that you can do. And I said, join and engage in a co-working space. It's up on my wall, but there's a picture that you can see right there, if you see my little finger pointing at it. But there's a picture from a magazine years ago. Lori sponsored, what was it called? New Business Minnesota. And she got a few of us together that were OffiCenters, what I would call advocates. We were always talking it up. We were there. We're always, not always, but in a good mood. And when I look at that picture, there were 8 of us in there, and 6 or 7 of us still see each other. We still talk to each other. Every 3 months we refer business to one another. And it's making those connections that really helps you with it. I'd also say really easy place to build your network, to really develop it, is to post on LinkedIn. And by post, I mean, don't just like. So often when you see a post and there are 28 other likes and no comments, you're like, okay, I'll just like that. Be the person who makes a comment, or be the person who says, hey, Bill, you should check this out. Be the one who makes it a little bit more interactive, because then you're being known as being a connector. So it's a great way to increase your visibility and to do this. And again, I think, now we're about to be able to do more lunches and to do things, but I always host a lunch. And so when the pandemic started, I decided I'm going to host a virtual lunch. So I reached out to a few people and said, do you want to be in on this lunch? Would you like to bring in somebody who'd like to meet people? I would tell them what the business kind of theme was, or who the other group of people were going to be there. And then I'd have that virtual lunch. And it's a really great way to, again, it sets you up as kind of the leader, and it allows other people to make more connections. Again, I've got lots of ideas on how to build your network, and anywhere from making that list to looking at the one in the middle there that says learn from relationships that didn't develop. That was a tough one for me to look at, because I was always like, well, why isn't this relationship going anywhere? I've spent time with the person, we've had a couple of conversations. I don't understand why. And some of those were great places for me to realize, you know what? I may not have talked enough about the results that I drive, or I didn't talk enough about some of the benefits of some of the programs that I was selling. Or maybe I overtalked and came across in a way that didn't work, or maybe it just wasn't the right time for that person. So again, there's learnings there. It's no big deal if the relationship doesn't go where you want to go. And then also the second one is, if you're in sales, is ask for the order. I know early on in my business, I never asked for the order. And I'd have all these meetings and meetings and meetings. And then I was like, why am I not getting the business? And it was like, because I never asked. And so getting people to give you feedback or to help you with that was a really strong one to go from it. So, Will, do we have any questions?
I don't see any more questions in the chat here.
Does anybody have any questions? Because there we go. We're on the question and answer slide. How about that? So does anybody block time on their calendar to network? Or when you plan your week, do you do any, do you block time to be on LinkedIn?
Alex says he used to when he was in BNI.
Yep.
I know I normally don't block time for that.
So I think it can be, I found it a great way for me to stay focused on when am I in relationship nurturing mode and when am I in relationship building mode. Meaning, the busier you get, the more likely it is that you're not going to spend time with people that are in your gold or silver category, because it's the first thing you're going to let go of. So I have really become disciplined, because again, discipline is not one of my strengths, but disciplined about making sure that I am reaching out to people at least once a week. I have some time on my calendar for that, so that I have time for a lunch with people. I have time to go to one event, a week, or I have time to really be using the phones and writing thank you notes and making connections. Because otherwise, again, I think what happens with our networking approach is we just don't do it. And then we're out of practice at it. And then we're like, okay, where do I start? And then it feels really awkward. And once you have your Impact 100, start with the easy people. Start with the people that you're really excited to reconnect with them, and give them a call and say, hey, what are you up to? What are you involved in? What groups are you part of? I mean, you're going to know why you're calling them, but just that act of putting a discipline on your schedule of saying, I'm going to work on my relationships once a week or 15 minutes every day. And when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm going to be more vocal. That can have a huge impact. And what was not interesting, but what was reassuring for me was when the pandemic started, there was that hesitancy to say, okay, I'm just shutting down. I'm not going to post on LinkedIn. I'm not going to do anything for a while. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to keep sending out an email, keep doing LinkedIn activities. And when I would see people, a lot of people don't comment, but they would say, oh, I see what you've been up to. I see you've been doing these things. And so there's part of that of just kind of having faith in your rhythm of making those connections or making the calls or sending people an article. I still use the mail. In fact, they teased me last night because I showed up with the magazine. I had ripped something out of the business journal and I tried to hand it to the woman. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, paper. Everybody calls me paper after they know me. She's like, paper, why are you giving that to me? And I looked at her and I said, is this too old school that I'm handing you this sheet of paper? She's like, yes, I'm all digital. I said, yeah, but I've been thinking about you. I wanted you to have this, and here's this thing. And so we joked about it, but it's just kind of that knowing of like, how do you stay front and center with people? And it's got to be authentic, but you're looking to deepen that connection.
Cathy, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Quinn.
Do you find that you're more successful in connecting with people if you give specifics like, hey, do you want to get together for 15 minutes? Are you available next week for 15 minutes versus an open-ended, like, we should reconnect?
Yes. The more specific I can be, the better. And I have a little calendar thing, that like people can sign up for a time and it sets up a Zoom and all that. But I also do where I say to people, here's why I would like to talk to you. I would like to reconnect to hear what you're doing. I want to tell you what I'm up to. I'm running these types of events. Here are 3 times in the next 2 weeks. If those don't work, please call OffiCenters and they can schedule an appointment for us. And because then, Quinn, it's a great one, because then I've taken away the person going, oh, I'll look at it later. I don't know. They want to meet with you, but it's like, it's not easy. So
yeah, having your availability where they can choose just front and center would be super helpful. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So I do, and I use I've seen people use like Calendly. I used Acuity because it hooks up to my like email systems and to Zoom and whatever. And then like it even says a couple questions. Why do you want to connect? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Then everybody's prepared. So great question. Anybody else? Okay, so Will, I got one more story and then over to you.
Go for it.
Okay, so well, here's what I do want to know actually, is I would encourage all of you to, from the list of things that I showed, pick one or two things that you're going to do. Even, if it's making, sorry, not to make everybody sick, but if it's making your Impact 100 list, walk out of this and say, I'm going to make my Impact 100 list. Or walk out of this and say, you know what, I'm going to reach out to 3 people this week, or book time on my calendar. Like, commit to doing something, because it'll get your juices going. So that's your homework assignment, because I got to look up when TCF Bank Stadium opened, because when they opened, I had heard people were starting to host events there, and I really wanted to do an event there. I thought, okay, this is cool, it's sporty, I'm going to do a book launch there. But I was a little chicken, because it was, doing an event is daunting. You got to sign, you worry if people aren't going to show up, what's going to happen. So when I went there, I saw that big monitor, where the Fruit Share logo is. And I was like, you know what? I really want to have logos up there. I want to use that somehow. First, I asked, can I get on the field? And they said, no, you can't get on the field. But they said, you can get on the monitors. It's going to be an extra charge. We'll find out how much it is. And the woman came back to me and said, okay, it's $500 for you to get up there and to do that. And again, I hesitated. I was like, yeah, I don't know, $500, kind of a lot. Will people really like it? It was one of the best decisions I made, because all the people that were my sponsors and partners in this event stood looking at their logo up on that bank stadium. They had the same reaction that I did, of like, okay, this is really cool. This is fun. It gave them visibility. They had some pride on there. This was Harvey's book launch on job search. And I put my logo up there, and I have used that image repeatedly to just sort of say, like, let the brand lead for you. Because I think what happens sometimes with networking and with thinking about ourselves as a rock star is we all don't want to show up as sort of too much and too bold and too loud, or we show up too loud and nobody ever tells us that we're too loud, which is part of the problem. So you want to find that balance of, where are the people that will help you channel your inner rock star and show up and network and make connections so that everybody wins. And sometimes you have to take a little risk. And for me, this was one of those risks in my career that I took, that I was like, you know what, this was worth it, because all the people that were my sponsors are still involved in my business. They've been fans of mine. The Fruit Share people, they just sponsored an event that I put on for youth football camp. And that's what you want, is your network is so everybody wins. And that's how you turn those bloopers into the blueprint for success. So that's what I got, Will.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. That was awesome. I'm walking away with a page full. I know you can't see it because of my background, but a page full of notes here. We appreciate you so much, and I appreciate everybody who's joined us today. Before I talk about some of the upcoming events, I know we have Alex on here, which is our next month's speaker. If you'd like to share with us maybe a little bit about what we're going to be talking about next month, Alex.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Cathy. By the way, I really enjoyed your presentation, and yes, I learned a lot too as well. And just wanted to ring true to a lot of the things you said. That I like that you hit on the head, that you don't need to network just in networking groups. It's everywhere you go. As long as you build relationships with people and they have a clear understanding of how you operate and you help communicate yourself, you will grow your business. And I was in B&I for 8 years, so that was a big portion, but then I took those principles and I took them outside of B&I, and network with vendors has been huge, and finding those circles has been really beneficial to my business, especially. So thanks for your presentation. My topic for July 29th is called Fortify Your Freelancing Business. I am a interactive designer. I build interactive displays. If you've ever seen touch screens or digital menu boards or things like that in universities or tenant buildings, office buildings, and you wonder who creates those, that's me. So those TVs are a business I've been running for over 10 years. I was doing it for 5 years at a different company before that. And I started this when I was 22. So I've been doing it a long time. I have a good portion of my business is freelancing the interactive design. And if anybody has a project-oriented business or OffiCenters members or non-members that want to get some side perspectives from probably an industry you may not have heard too much about, I'm happy to deliver those. I'm sure I've had the same challenges everybody else had, where you have tough clients, you have payment issues, project management, communication issues between multiple parties. I'm happy to share stories of how I've overcome those. And on top of that, I have two $50 Amazon gift certificates that I'll be giving away or raffling off at that session too.
Nice.
So thank you very much. I look forward to talking to everybody on July 29th.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
I just want to mention too real quickly that all of the digital signs that you see in OffiCenters are through Alex and Realize. So if you've been into an OffiCenter location and seen our slides that play in the co-working areas or the kitchen areas, that's some of the things that Alex and his company can do for people. And we really enjoy working with Alex. He's been with us as a co-working member at one time at International Plaza. He used to be one of the Knights of the Round Table, of the Red Table. Him and his partner would sit up there and work every day. He was a staple there, and now Alex is in an office at OffiCenters at International Plaza, and we're really happy that he has become a partner with OffiCenters. So thank you, Alex, for everything you do for us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love working with you, and yeah, those TVs that you see all around the locations, we work together on those. And Will and Lee create all the content for them, so they look beautiful. So you guys do a great job.
Yeah, I actually I enjoy doing it. It's fun. It's I mean, obviously I'm a designer and a photographer and videographer and stuff like that. So it's catered towards people like me, but it's stuff that I enjoy doing. It's fun to do, and it's fun to see it up in the centers all the time as well. And before I plug a couple more little things that are coming next month, we did have a giveaway that we were going to do today. I know, Cathy, you were going to give away a one-on-one session, right? So I normally have a number picker going right now, but what I'll do is I'll just send that out afterwards to a winner, and I'll just inform you, Cathy, and the winner, if that sounds all right.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, so thank you everybody again for joining us today. Thank you, Cathy. Next month we have some more events coming up. We have our monthly networking group here at Woodbury Slice of Woodbury. Normally we would be having Park Connect, but we decided to cancel Park Connect coming up at the beginning of the month because we wanted to just give people some time if they want to take a long weekend for the 4th. So that is actually canceled. We have a couple of AGC Accelerated Global Connections events, and they normally pull in very big numbers, 50 plus people most of the time for their networking events. On the 13th, we have one at Minnetonka, and on the 22nd, we have one at Woodbury. So those will be posted up on our website shortly. And then after that, we have PowerLunch with Realize next month. And if you want to come in tomorrow, we have Blackjack Friday. If you want to win some fun prizes. So that's always a fun thing that we do at the end of the month as well. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again to Cathy and you guys for joining us today, and have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks, Will and Lee, for coordinating. Bye.
Thanks so much, Cathy.
Bye
It's
now.
always great to hear what you have to say. You have such great insight and information. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Bye. Nice
Bye.
to meet you, Alex.